Ended up losing everything in a house fire. 1,400 square foot apartment, windows. Our group training is different than a traditional group training experience like a HIIT studio.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Discovering YYC. Today we have the opportunity of sitting down with Jeff, one of the owners of Connect Performance. Hey Jeff, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So Jeff, let's start with maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's say 9-10 years ago, I originally started downtown as a personal trainer at Good Life. Hated it.
Okay.
Hated logging a bunch of hours and making a very low income, like anyone in a starting position. And I eventually started doing more of the therapy side of thing and took a step away from training and started doing more stretch therapy as a way to build my personal training business out of a contractor's facility. And the therapy side of it ended up swallowing the fitness side of it, and I would say that was a huge stepping stone for me.
Gotcha. So you switched over from Good Life, starting your own business. How was that transition for you, starting to from an employee to an entrepreneur, business owner?
Well, I really struggled initially when I first came here because I was a small town kid in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, and coming into a big city like this, I really struggled to kind of find my way. Being on Stephen Ave, you're watching people walk around in suits and seeing all these fancy cars, and being a blue collar kid, I really struggled even in the environment, I would say, and I didn't realize that the training scene was so sales driven. So I had all these volunteer experience working as a trainer, and I had a fresh new degree, kinesiology degree, kind of all ready to hit the ground running, but I had no idea how to do the sales side of the business. And I really struggled for probably 3 or 4 months. I didn't get one client, and I was actually almost ready to pack it in and move back home, and I'm glad I didn't. But it's actually funny. The first time I made a sale was a $5,000 contract, and as soon as you make the sale, you get a 10% commission.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, I was probably a week or two from quitting the job and moving back home. And I made the sale, and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to be able to eat. And as soon as I made the sale, I was due to get the $500 commission. I went to drive my bike home that night, and my bike was stolen, and my bike was worth exactly $500. So I thought it was like the universe telling me to pack it in, and I didn't. But I eventually worked myself into a busy schedule, and things got I would say boring, and I needed more of a challenge, and I was tired of a big corporation taking a lot of my income and hard work. And I wanted to increase my income and work for myself. And I remember telling my parents that I had a bunch of savings and all this stuff, and I was setting myself up for success to run my own business. But realistically, I had student loans due, I had maxed out credit cards, I had no business starting my own business. But I was just kind of betting on myself, and so I ended up working from home, just doing the therapy side of it. Right when I was finding my groove, I was about a year into getting my, I was in a 2-bedroom apartment in Inglewood, and about a year in, ended up losing everything in a house fire. My roommate thought that I got insurance, and I thought that she got insurance. So talk about rock bottom. I ended up losing my table, all my clothes, everything. Only thing I had on me was a pair of shorts, a jacket, and my phone. So started from scratch, and that was the point where I actually almost completely packed in the idea of running my own business, and I was going to just work at someone else's business, because I was like, well, do I really want to rebuild this all back up, and taking a huge hit like that? And I was playing around with the idea of moving out on my own at that point, because I wanted to not have clients or have a roommate interfere with clients, and I didn't want them, being in her space or anything like that. So it's funny, the conversation happened right the day before the fire. I told my roommate I wanted to sublet my room and live on my own. And it's funny enough that I put the ad up that night, and ended up losing the apartment.
Wow.
Which is crazy, crazy to think about. Anyway, so I didn't sleep for 5 days after the fire. Still continued to work anywhere that would let me borrow a table, work. My clients took great care of me. I still continue to work. I ended up moving into the Guardian. No furniture, no nothing. Slept on the floor for 3 or 4 days, and just slowly pieced everything together. And it was honestly the best thing that ever happened to me, because it taught me another gear that I didn't know I had. And the only issue with that is I didn't know the balance between overdoing it and like working too hard, and I ended up working myself into stress-induced shingles. So I don't know if you guys have ever had shingles before, but I ended up working myself to the point where I just wasn't taking great care of myself, and I was just had no boundaries set for myself as a business owner. If someone's like, yeah, I need to come in the next 30 minutes, I'd be like, done. Yeah. And I was just like, weekends, anytime like I would work 50 to 60 hours, I just no quit. And then I realized you can't do that. Yeah. And then I finally found like the balance of like, okay, like you need to take care of yourself. You need to have the work-life balance. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself from an exercise standpoint. You can't just like try and help everyone when you're not taking good care of yourself. And then, so business grew tenfold from whenever I was living in Inglewood before the fire. And then I ended up moving to Riva, I think where we met.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, like I can do something cool here. And it's kind of like a case where it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. For sure. From like running a business out of a condo. Yeah. But I had this beautiful apartment, 1,400 square foot apartment, windows, which was honestly like an end goal for me. I was like, I made it. I'm making like a good income, and like I put like a full gym in my living room, and I was doing therapy. I even turned one of my rooms into I had an infrared sauna in there. I had a massage therapist working out of there, and I was like, I'm good, like, you know. And I thought that was the end point. And then I, of course, the moment I got comfortable, I was like, let's just flip it all upside down. And then that's where started reaching out to people, got connected with people, and I was like, okay, like I want to create something like this. Maybe that's my end goal. And even from like a retirement standpoint, like I could have done that, you know, as long as I could have done it, but like it's not going to set me up from a retirement standpoint like this well. Yeah, long-winded answer, but that's kind of how it this turned into what it turned into.
Yeah, amazing story.
And a lot of speed bumps along the way, and almost packed it in quite a few times, but glad I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's a crazy story, man. Crazy. So let's circle back a little bit here. FST, fascial stretching therapy. Let's start with telling people what is that. Because at first, when you and I met, I didn't even know what it was. I just said, I'm the kind of guy who like to try new things. And I was like, oh, this is something I've never done before. So let me go try it out.
So fascial stretch therapy, there's a Stretch the Wind Institute in Phoenix that I went to go do the courses in. When I did the courses, didn't have the money to do the courses, but just bet on it being successful, and like nobody was doing it at a high level in Calgary. So I was like, you know, I'm going to get into the social media marketing thing. I'm going to be like, I'm going to try and be the go-to person in Calgary for it. And that was like always the goal. But it's essentially just assisted joint-based stretching, where like if you think of traditional stretching, if you were lying on your back and I was pushing and trying to stretch your hamstring, traditional stretching is very much just like stretching one muscle at a time. And while you're doing that, you're contracting muscles to either to like stay upright or like anything posture related, where when you're lying on your back, you're completely relaxed. And I like to consider it more like traction-based stretching, where I'm lifting the joint out of the capsule, and then I'm going into it, so that you're not just feeling the muscle stretch, you're feeling the entire joint stretch. So by doing that, we're improving space within the joint, we're allowing nerves not to feel so compressed. And oftentimes when people come and see me like yourself, who they feel and they're like, everything just feels so compressed and stuck and everything like that. So I would say that's like the easiest way to explain it, is just we're creating space in the joint, and you're allowing to do like longer, more intense based stretching, where we're not creating any pain for the client, and allows clients to relax into it and actually see the benefits of stretching.
Gotcha. I would have to say, to be honest, Jeff is probably the best FST practitioner in Calgary. Sometimes he would go on vacation. I'll be like, oh, I really need to get stretched. So I'll go and try some other guys. And to be honest, like I usually come out there in pain. So I'll definitely say, if you're going to look for an FST guy, reach out to Jeff, or make sure they're a level 3. Because I feel like a level 1 and 2 for me was not good enough, because there's 3 levels to being FST. There's level 1, level 2, level 3. Jeff is a level 3 practitioner. So I would definitely seek either just Jeff to be safe, or if not, find someone who's a level 3. Personally, that worked best for me. But like I said, just stick to Jeff. It's so much easier.
A good indication of whether to figure out if someone's a good fascial stretch therapy practitioner is if you're feeling a lot of pain or discomfort, then it's not fascial stretch therapy. So you got to find a way, in this form of therapy, you need to find a way to make the client feel safe and comfortable. And if you're really cranking on someone, it's kind of weird. So if you don't do enough intensity, then you're obviously not going to create any change. But if you do too much, you're creating a lot of pain. So it's like about finding that middle ground of where someone's comfortable range is at. And that's kind of, that just takes time to, yeah, it just takes time.
Exactly. Awesome. So back to here now, Connect Performance. Where did this idea come from?
This came from, I was talking with a friend of mine who is a graphic designer, and he actually helped me come up with the name. Okay. But we came up with the name during COVID, and it was very much, people lacked connection. They lacked, like, I don't know, it's just like nobody was around each other. Mm-hmm. So it was like what everyone needed most of the time was connection. Yes. And it plays a lot on the line of that everything in the body's connected as well. But we wanted to create a place that was a true multidisciplinary facility where all the staff are working. Like when you come in and you're my client, it's like you see a couple other practitioners here too. It's like you're our client. Yes. And it's like we make sure we're having weekly meetings and talking about clients to make sure you're getting the best possible care. Yeah. And that's important to us, that we're working as a team to make sure that you're taken care of. And I think a huge piece that gets missed in the clinical world that I think we're nailing on the head is having access to a full gym, so that we can kind of address every single aspect of your rehab and fitness or whatever it be. And oftentimes, if you're seeing a practitioner, they're just sending you to a trainer in the city that they're not 100% sure what's going on, but our therapists know exactly, and they can access all of our trainers' programming and implement things wherever they need to make sure that you're getting the best possible care. And I think that's kind of what's differentiates us to other clinics. Yeah. And we have a lot more to build on, I think, with that. Like there's some things that we're looking to roll out in our third and fourth year that we don't want to share yet, because it's going to be hopefully massive, that some facilities do in Vancouver that no one does here. Here, okay. But
there's a lot of stuff right now that you guys do here that isn't being done in any facility in Calgary. Can you touch on those a little bit?
Group training. So our group training is different than a traditional group training experience, like a HIIT studio or anything like that, is because we actually track what you're doing, and we do progressive overload. So we consider it almost like what you would see in a university weight room. Yeah. So you're coming in, it's like you're seeing your program. My job as the coach is to coach. Your job as the client or the athlete is to be tracking what you're doing. Yeah. So we have iPads positioned in the gym so that you can actually see progressive overload, and then rather than you being like, Coach, what did I do last week? It's like you click on the iPad, you can see everything that you've done, so that we can actually get progressive overload. Because if you're not tracking things, then you're leaving your results to chance. Gotcha. So I think that's a huge piece for us, and even it's extremely progressive and regressive programming. So if someone comes in and they're like, I'm in a lot of pain, I can't do anything that they're doing, you still have a place for us, a place for you in our classes, because we can make everything regressive based on what kind of ailments you're dealing with, and it can't always be done in a large 20-person class, in a HIIT studio, for example, where with what we do, we keep our classes at 6 to 8, and that way we can create a little bit more of a premium training experience at an affordable rate. So that's kind of, I guess, what would differentiate us.
So I just wanted to touch base on some of the questions Mark asked. You talked about going through the whole process of, working in your apartment and just no work-life balance, nothing like that. I have a question about resilience. Mm-hmm. I mean, you lost everything. I mean, you literally hit rock bottom. I don't even know why you're here or how you're here, for that matter. So what do you think was the one or two or three things that just kept you going through all that process?
I definitely wasn't the best student. So it's like, from a book smart standpoint, I would say, like, it was I was always such a competitive person. So like, from anything sport related, anything I can like compete in with anyone, I was so driven on that side of it. So I hated the idea of failing. I wouldn't say by any means I had doubters or anything like that. And a piece of this company was actually built on spite for another company that they kind of rang me along through an interview process, and I was at the point where I was getting rid of clients at the gym I was training at, Good Life, and they're out of business now. I'm not going to name them, but I'm just going to say how it is, but they didn't hire me, so I said I'm going to create my own business. Nice. But I would say what motivates me is I was tired of working for someone else and didn't feel appreciated in the company that I was in. And I wanted to I wanted to create a space where I would never have to work for someone again, and I could make people feel valued. And I just felt like I could do it better. Yeah. And I wanted to do it. I find with like big corporations, it's hard to put a personal touch on things. And whenever you can create a small studio-based like community, we can do things that those big corporations can't, and we can take better care of our clients. And I wouldn't even consider us being in the fitness industry. We're in the customer service business. Nice. I feel like we can just take care of people better because it's a smaller scale, and people pay for that.
Yeah, no, I love that response. You're in the customer service business.
Yeah, we're in the customer service business.
I just happen to do fitness-related stuff.
I listened to a podcast about the Starbucks owner, and whenever they do like a board of director meeting or something like that, they always leave a chair open on their table, so that whenever they make a decision and they raise their hands or whatever, they don't finalize the decision until I guess it's like they always make sure they're considering the customer. That empty chair is the customer, and it's like, okay, like everyone raised their hand. It's like, would the customer raise their hand? And I thought that was kind of cool.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm going to touch on some of that again. You mentioned part of the reason why you built this company was out of spite. There's a concept about the dark side. I don't know if you've heard about this. Tim Grover touched on it. Carl Jung, a psychologist from a long time ago, also talked about this. The concept of having this experience, this negative experience you've gone through maybe as a child or as an adult, and tapping into that, but using it to better yourself. Basically controlling your dark side. So if you're an angry kid, because you were not loved properly or whatever, you could tap into that anger and use that as a drive to achieve greatness. Is this something you're familiar with?
I'm a big Kobe guy. Okay. From like Mamba mentality and all that stuff is very real, and I love that. Like, I don't know if you've read any of his books, but just the sacrifices that he would make just so he could spend more time with his family, but he didn't want to compromise. He said he wasn't going to compromise his training or his family time, so he compromised sleep. So I loved how disciplined he was with everything, and it was tragic, obviously, when he passed away, and that he was a huge. It sounds weird, but he was a huge, like, what would Kobe do? Kind of thing. It's like he wouldn't quit. That sounds kind of weird when you say it, but it's like I never really had any quit. My family knows this about me too. My fiance knows this about me. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
I also have a question about. I went through your website, and you guys have 200 plus Google reviews, and I just kept reading through those reviews. Just beautiful reviews. I mean, people talking about going through sciatica pain or just a pain from childhood and everything, and they have great things to say about your team and how happy they are. How does that make you feel, bringing so much happiness and joy to people's lives?
This business is nothing without our team. If any young entrepreneur or anyone that wanted to open up a business or a fitness studio or anything like that, if anyone asked me for advice, I would say do not open up a space until you get at least some core members of your team together, because the people make this company what it is, and the Google reviews reflect it. But Google reviews as business owners, like, that's everything to us. And I feel like getting aligned with my co-owner, and so Adam and I, we started our relationship strictly as business, and we became really good friends. And with him being an absolute powerhouse clinician, and just we're so different, him and I, and it's such a great balance where he runs the clinic side of it and I go directly like training, marketing, and we both handle like business operations stuff. It's like the perfect balance. And anytime we do we have what's called like a drink a beer factor when we're hiring. It's like, are these people that we would want to get to know and drink a beer with? And I think that's important, that whenever you run a business, you have the chance to hire people that you get to spend like a large part of your time with. And not everyone gets to choose who they work with, where we kind of get to, and I think we don't take that for granted. So I think it's important that we're hiring good people who are really good at what they do. And it's like, we're never looking to hire quick. We're always trying to find the right people and put them in the right place to succeed. And I think we've done that early on, and that's a big reason why we've been successful early on.
Yeah. Do you mind touching more on your partnership? Because, the concept of finding a good business partner, I've heard that could really really be the that could change things for you,
So
for worse, you know?
whenever I was considering getting a partner, my accountant told me to not get one. And I ended up firing that accountant because I knew how much work went into this, and I would have never had, you agree, I would have never had a work-life balance ever. Like, there's no way, like, the amount of work, like, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to even get your business open. The balance between bank and legal and contractors, and it's like, you can go through that process and you can be halfway through it and you could be like, I'm done. Especially when you're getting close to a date to being opened and it gets pushed back, and then the bank or the contractor's like, you actually need to spend this much more, this much more, this much more, and you're just like, and then you're going back to the bank, and then it's a balancing act that a lot of people, I can see how it can deter them from doing this, but by having a good business partner and allowing you to take a little step back and they can step in, and it's like, it's massive. And I think when you're trying to find a good business partner, it's good to identify your weaknesses and their weaknesses and your strengths and their strengths, and then just collaborate like that, because it's a no-brainer having a business partner, especially in a big project like this. And anyone that doesn't, hats off to you, but I wouldn't do it.
You're a small town kid. That's basically how you describe yourself. What would you say to people moving in, immigrating to Calgary from places like Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, and what have you? Like, how were you able to make that transition from a small town to a major city like Calgary?
I mean, I didn't make it very well. I would say, like, I struggled. When I got here, I barely had a job. I barely had a place to live, it felt like. And the roommate that I was living with originally, he ended up accepting a job and moving to Lethbridge. So I immediately felt alone during it. And I find it's a city you actually need to be making like a reasonable income to even enjoy, especially now. But it's a great city. This is going to be home forever with the business I think we've created here. And I think there's so much opportunity. And I think when you're trying to offer a premium service, you need to be around premium clientele. And I think where we've located ourselves, I think given, I would say the higher end client, I mean, we're just west of Mount Royal and near like downtown. And it's like there's a lot of higher end income families, and I think being in a place where clients don't have to worry about parking, their cars getting banged up or anything like that. They just show up, we take care of them, we provide a premium service. I think it's Calgary's a great place to work, great place to live, and I'm going to be here probably forever.
Nice, yeah. All right. I mean, I moved here when I was 16 years old too.
Yeah.
All the way from Nigeria, so this is my home now.
Yeah.
I never lived in Calgary. I can't even imagine living in any of the other cities in Canada. So
there's nothing to complain with weather-wise. It's great here.
Yeah, I love Nigeria. Funny enough. Okay, I have a question about your postnatal facility or your postnatal group program. So I found that very interesting. I mean, the idea of bringing, women that just gave birth like 6 months ago and just different people in one class and potentially fostering a relationship between them. I mean, how did you guys come up with that idea?
That was a mix between like ownership as well as our pelvic floor physio, Rochelle. Okay. So she has excellent background in training, and it was always kind of the beginning when we brought her on. It was always part of the plan. I believe she did something like that in her previous clinic in Victoria, but it was something that you don't see a lot of in the city. And when you're talking about like fostering a community, and if we've learned anything in the past year or half of doing this, people love specificity. And so like we offer like off-season golf training, and the postnatal, we even did a ski group, like an off-season ski group. So it's like, if you tell someone to work out 3 times a week just for general health and longevity and building muscle, they'd be like, nah, I'm good. But if you say like, hey, want to do something for golf, they're like, I'm in. And it's the same kind of thing with postnatal, but being in a safe place where people feel supported. And the beautiful thing with what Rochelle does is she does all the assessments, she gets them cleared to exercise, she makes it progressive and regressive based on how they're feeling, how they're doing. It's the perfect class for anyone that's just had a baby post 6 months. You get to bring your baby, the babies see the other babies, it's a riot in there. Yeah, it's an absolute riot. Yeah, and the moms, they get to know each other, and Rochelle does a good job of, whenever they come in, she gets them to introduce themselves almost every single time. She gets them to talk about things that they enjoy doing, and then she'll get them, they go out for brunch or something like that. They'll go out for beer or burger. It's like, it's exactly what we wanted something like that to happen when we created this place. It's like, it's hard. It's really, really hard to, when you think about creating a business, oftentimes a business's values will say community, and it's just like kind of like a cop-out word. But because that's what every company strives to have, is community. It's like, well, how do you foster it? And I think we're doing a good job of fostering that community here, and it's only going to get better come year 3 and 4 when we launch something really, really exciting.
Oh, I love it. It's a fantastic.
Which I'll tell you guys off camera.
Oh, okay. Nice. I'm going to ask about discovering YYC, unless you have some more questions. Okay. All right. So you moved to Calgary a long time ago, and you've been here for a long time now. What would you say is unique to you about Calgary that you haven't found anywhere else in the world? Yeah.
Good question. So I've lived in Inglewood, I've lived in Bankview, I've lived downtown, and I've lived in Renfrew, and I've lived in Mahogany. So I've kind of lived a little bit all over. I know nothing about the north. I'm very much south, a little bit east side of the city. If anytime I go into like northern west side of downtown, that's where I feel lost. It's just too much buildings and too many one ways, and I just stay out of that. But what have I learned about Calgary? I would say it's coming from Nova Scotia. I notice this city is a lot more active, and they're a little bit more willing to invest in themselves. I think it's becoming more popular to do that back home, but back home it's very much like if someone is dealing with any kind of aches and pains, they're just like, it's fine. And that's my family. And so I think here it's a place where people are proactive with their health. They create a bunch of amazing parks and walkways that promotes people to be physically active. And when you're in my line of work, you want people who take care of themselves. And even when we were thinking about our ideal demographic from like building our clientele, we want people who are proactive, who take care of themselves. And we consider working with a client like a business relationship, where it's like, I'll do my part, but you have to do your part if we're actually going to see results. So I think we are in the perfect place for what we're trying to accomplish with clients, and we're working with motivated individuals who want to take care of themselves. And I think for what we're seeing in Calgary, we're in the perfect place. I always tell them that when I come home and I'm really bagged after like a long work day, I'll say to my fiance, I was like, make sure my tombstone reads that he gave everything he had for his business. Yeah. So if I die early, so make sure it says that. Yeah. So for a giveaway, we'll offer a initial assessment with any practitioner, a personal training assessment, so a therapy assessment, a fitness assessment, and then we'll offer a recovery room session, so a 30-minute recovery session. So it's 2.5 hours of time here.
Okay. So what do they have to do to get access to all of this?
They would just call, and so once whoever wins the contest, because I'm assuming we're going to do a follow kind of thing, tag people kind of thing. So once the winner is chosen, we'll reach out to them directly, we'll get them booked in, and then they won't have to worry about anything from a payment standpoint. It'll be good for anyone who wants to address any kind of aches and pains, or if they're looking to kind of kickstart a fitness routine or anything like that, and they can just relax in the recovery room, either post-training assessment or post-therapy assessment. It'll just be a nice little add-on for them.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. This has been amazing.
That was fun, guys. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.